I made some fishing lures from rocks that I found on the beach, and now I'm going to show you the process that I went through, as well as all of the mistakes that I made, and well, not all the mistakes, because then this video would take about an hour. But I had broken rocks, couldn't figure out how to put split rings on. Started off by using my tile saw to slab some of my rocks, and I used a fence on the tile saw to get the thickness that I wanted. Now after you cut them, you can still change the thickness by using the edge of the saw, but tile saw works pretty well actually to do this part of what I need to get done. So I cut a bunch of slabs just so that I would have some extras, because I knew that I would have some issues when I tried to actually put everything together and make it all work. But if you don't have a real lapidary saw, a tile saw will work just fine for this process. Next, I drew some shapes. I just used a stencil that I had, has some ovals on it, and you can also just draw them by hand. Doesn't really matter. I don't think the fish won't care that much. So I made a bunch of those. Then I used the tile saw for shaping, meaning just trimming them down to match the shapes that I wanted. To do this, I was really just using the sides of the blade itself, and that makes pretty quick work of getting the shapes that you want. I don't think I spent more than about a minute on any one of the rocks that I was trying to shape and get into the shapes that I wanted to make my lures. This part, drilling the holes, was kind of a pain. I've got a Dremel, an old one that I've had for forever, and it was an issue. Well, it wasn't an issue. It just takes a long time. I would say I probably spent about 10 minutes for each hole that I had to make, and you can see I tried to make a whole lot of holes. I wish I had some better tools to do this, maybe a drill press, but I got there eventually. It just takes a very, 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 very long time to do so.
2,000 years later.
After getting the shapes that I wanted, I threw things in my tumbler. I didn't have enough of the lures themselves to fill up a tumbler as much as I wanted, so I used a bunch of soft rocks that I had to fill up the extra spaces, and that worked well. I made sure I checked everything after each tumbling stage, and unfortunately a bunch of them got broken, mainly because the rocks are too soft, so that's really my fault. But I kept going with the tumbling through all 4 stages. Probably could have skipped the last stage. I don't know that the fish will care how shiny something is at the very end, but I did it anyway because the effort involved here is really small. You don't really have to do anything, just like a normal rock tumble. Throw them in and wait for them to be done. Once they were done, they looked pretty decent, I thought. You can see I've got some broken ones again. This part was a pain, trying to add the split rings, mainly because I didn't really have the right tools to do it. Started off using a screwdriver. I attempted to use the scissors. That helped a little bit more, but it wasn't great. Anyway, I kept trying though, kept trying. So what happened? Well, a couple things happened. One is that when the rings weren't open enough, I would break the rocks. So in the end, I decided I would get the right tools. I went online, found some split ring pliers, placed my order.
The next day.
Once they showed up, definitely helped open the rings. Got a little kind of a tooth in there that helps to open those up and make the gap wide enough so I could get them on a rock. However, problems I had again were that, one, some rocks were too soft, or my holes were too close to the edge. When I tried to apply them and get them on, I broke the rocks. So a lot of broken rocks going through this process, and that was not good. So I really need to learn this part of the process. I'll get there eventually. What I did was I cheated a little bit, and I used some jewelry jump rings, and that made it a lot easier. We'll just have to see how those are how they're going to hold up. Also, I stretched them out way too much. When I stretched them out, I tried to use a vise to get them back together again, and that did not work out. I really need to get better at this part of things. If you want to try to make your own, I recommend checking out another YouTube channel called Planetary Lapidary, which I have linked in my description. He has a number of videos where he makes lures, going through the process. And his process is a little bit different because he has different and better tools. I would definitely check that out if you want to see the right way to make these. Unfortunately, I haven't yet got my fishing license for this year, so I haven't had a chance to test these out, but I definitely will, so stay tuned. Thanks for watching.